I'm going to switch now and switch to a different presenter. And I kind of want people to know that are watching that you don't have to be an expert and really have the background to present on APCUG, because as a computer user, I don't have any computer or technology degrees. I'm not a network administrator, software developer, and I haven't even worked for anywhere in the technology field. I'm an educator, yeah, but I'm one of a lot of you computer users that have been self-taught by riding the bumpy paths, getting flats, running into roadblocks, and making wrong turns, but learning as I go. I just have a passion for computers and Linux, and drew my attention towards his software because he said the magic words of free, open source, and we also add to that cross-platform. And that's kind of what I'm all about. And today I'm going to share with you another program. I'm not an expert in this program. I've only used a little bit, but I am overwhelmed with the features and abilities for this program, and I want to share it with you. There's more to it than I have time to share today, partly because I haven't learned that extra part, but we're going to go ahead and take a look at FreeFileSync. FreeFileSync is an open source backup and syncing program. FreeFileSync is a folder comparison and synchronization software. It creates and manages your backup copies. After the first backup, it's just set up for determining the differences and backing up what needs to back up, and it's open source. It's a cross-platform program available for Linux. That's why I'm sharing it, but it also works on Windows and Mac OS. It's available in both a free version that does everything most users would do. And I like free software, but I also like to support people who are going the extra mile and effort to create excellent software that's open source, cross-platform, and can also be free. There is a donation that if you donate to the support of this person, you will get a special version that includes these 4 things. And as you look at them, none of them are that crucial to most everyday users. The auto update, a parallel file copy, haven't learned that yet. It does have a portable zip version, so you can carry it with you, and you get email notifications when syncing's done with the good news or the bad news. When you go to the website, which is just freefilesync.org, you have everything you need right there in front of you. They have the programs that you can download, plus tutorials, screenshots, the vision of this person who is the designer, a manual that goes with it, frequently asked questions, and they even have a forum that you can sign up. And then there's a donate button, which is not purchasing the program. It's free, but you can donate to the developer, which I did. There are 3 different kinds of downloads, but if you are really interested, you can go in and hit that download the source code, and you can see the whole program, which would not make any sense to me at all, other than thousands of lines of stuff that's interesting. And as it says down here, what you get with the free, the donation, when you download, it was interesting. It downloads a zip type file, And when I opened it, there was the icon with the gears, which made me think, oh, this is just like an app image, because that's what we get with app images. But when I double clicked, it opened up and ran a program to install. And you can see that there's a few different choices that you have when you install it, that you can get it for everybody or just for you. They install it into the OPT, the optional directory, whereas most of the programs that you add go in Linux. And you had the option of creating a shortcut or not. The first time I did this, I said yes. And as you see on the right-hand side, two nice little programs come up. Actually, there are two programs, FreeFileSync and real-time sync. I won't be covering real-time sync because that's a little bit more. Drew kind of alluded to that with the SSHing and stuff like that you do. And then you just install the program. So it's in the menu. So on my computer, after I had the icons on there, I got rid of them because I don't like anything on my desktop. Now, I did mention that because I am on the donation list, I have an automatic update. So just yesterday when I started up the program, it popped up and said, hey, the new one's available. And so I just clicked the auto update. If you aren't on the free ones, you can either get a message that says that there's a new one, go get it, or whatever the process is. And it does an interesting thing. It goes through the same process, but you can see that it's removing the old one and installing the new one, re-syncing everything to the extension you got, and it's all done very, very quickly for updating. Now let's talk about how this program works. And the first important part is that it does comparisons. And so it compares your files, and you have three different options. You can do it by time and size, which means it looks like at the left side and the right side. Left will be the source, right side will be the target, and it examines it. And it will tell you these files are only on the left or only on the right. So you need to do something about that because they're not synced. Or they exist on both sides, but one has a different date. Or they got the same date, but the size has changed. So it brings your attention to something that you might need to do about syncing that file. We can also do it by content. Now this is a kind of a slower way of doing it because it's got to look inside, however it does that, and figure out, is the content the same on both sides or not on both sides? It could be equal or it's got different content. And this one is useful if you can't do using time stamps. And you got two files and you're going, compare it, and they can figure out, and then you can deal with which one you want to sync and which one you might not want to. We can also do it by size. Now that's a little bit tricky, excuse me, because we know that there can be two files with the same size, but they have different content. So this one is not as slow as going by content, but it's still slower because it's got to try to compare the sizes and all. But it will tell you that there's a difference on one side or the other. So here's when you go to the settings for the comparison tab, you can see that you have those three choices, and you also have a few other choices that you can do to do this. I'm not going to talk about symbolic links because that's for Orv to talk about in his thing, but you can also have it tell you, don't tell me about any errors, and automatically retry files. And because I've got the donated version, I do have an option for parallel file options, which might come for another workshop. You also have a filter tab where you can go in and say, I don't want to copy and sync any of these kinds of files. You can see as an example, the system file information and recycle bin, or the recycler, depending on how things are named. I can also include some files that might not be set by default when I show you how we do that. Now let's talk about how options we have for synchronizing. And the first one is the mirror one. And most people understand that the mirror means what's on the left is going to be on the right. What's not on the left is going to be removed from the right. What's not on the right could be put back on the left, because these both have to be the same. So after your first full backup, then it just looks at what's changed, has been added or deleted, and then it's been matched up so that you can make that mirror copy, identical. So that's the mirror one. Now, this one also has one that's called an update sync. And this one is a kind of a better one to use at times, because after comparison, it does not replace. If you have a new file on your source, and that file exists on the target, update is not going to replace it. It's going to add it to that list. So you'll have kind of like versioning. And it does not do any delete. So if it finds something that's on the target that's no longer on the source, it's not going to automatically delete it. So it's kind of like a safer run than just doing the mirror, because mirror says everything's going to be exactly the same. So you have option for that. You also have an option for two-way syncing. And this is going to make sure that both sides, it's like a double mirror is what it would be. Because if there's something on the target side that's not on the source side, it's going to bring that one back over. Now, when I try to say, why would you use it? This is what you would use if you're using a shared storage area, and you had two computers that access the same folders. And so if computer one adds a file to the backup sync, then that will transfer to the other computer automatically. So if you do a lot that way, where your main source of storage is off the computer, then multiple computers can be able to keep up to date with it. And so when you go to the syncing tab, then you see that here are the three different ways. Plus, you could even go into a custom designed syncing program where you can pick and choose. I haven't learned all that part yet. I think I'll be happy to stick with the simple ones, but you can go in and change that. Now, you also, in the syncing, have to decide what do you want to do with deleted files. And one option, the first one is out there, is for recycling. It will send everything to the recycle bin, and then you can retrieve it if you need to. If you don't want to deal with that, you can choose the permanent one. So once they're deleted, they're gone for good. And if you're that much of a risk taker, fine. But you can also do one with versioning. And so that you can save the files, and they will be in a with a different name, and you can keep track of that. You can see down at the bottom that this program also allows for the sending of email notifications, and you can change the default path for where you store stuff. Oh, wrong mouse. And as I got into this program even can detect when you've moved files. If you're using the system that is two-way, it's already set up that way, so that if you move a file, FreeFileSync says, oh, discovered that file got moved, so I'm going to move it on the other option. And so that's a great way that you can move something and not go, oh, nuts, I have to copy this one here and then go back through and delete it from here. FreeFileSync will take care of that. If you're using just the mirror way, all you have to do is go in and tell FreeFileSync, I want to enable database file systeming so that it can do that. So that is another extra feature that seems to come with this. All right, we're going to do a short demo, and then I got to come back to the slides so you can see how it really worked, because I'm not taking that time. And so I'm going to go using the marvels of short keys. And I'm going to go into there we go, FreeFileSync. All right, so what we have here is this is the main screen that you get when you first start it up. And I'm going to hide this. Not going to let me hide that. Well, Judy, they've changed something again on here. This bar across the top is my small bar, and it used to be able to be hidden. And now it doesn't have that on there. So I'll move it down. Okay, so this is the opening one. I just want to let you see over on the left-hand side is the main where you set up your sync. And this program will let you, just like what Drew showed us, you can save the different kinds of syncing plans that you want to create. And they will be listed over on here. These are your two windows. The left side is the source and the right side is the target. And so you can drag and drop file folders here and find where you want to go on the other side. At the top right now, it's kind of set for why, I don't know, for a G drive, because I was playing around. But this is the button that would compare, and then that's the button that would do the sync once you get it ready. Here is your tabs for your customization, which I showed you on the screen, and it has all three: filter and synchronize. And so it doesn't matter if you click the blue gear, the filter spout, or the green gear, it brings up that same tab instead of three different separate ones. But you can do a quick change just right by clicking here and change the kind of comparison you're doing, or change the kind of syncing that you are doing. Down here at the bottom, this is a nice feature. This will, whatever you click on for your compare side, it will show a navigation tree on here. And it's also good. We've presented in the past a program called, I think we have, not I have somewhere, called Tree File Free, and it lists your tree of your programs and helps you find what is taking up all that room. And so you have a whole navigation side there. Up here at the top, you can browse to what you want to go and drag in there. And then on the right-hand side, you can browse where you're going to save things. I don't have my external drive plugged into here, but if I hit that, it would go and I could select the external drive. Over on the far right-hand side, these have to do with the cloud. This program will also connect to Google Drive, and that's right now the only thing that it does, other than your SFTP and FTP, which Drew talked about, and we'll save for another workshop or presentation. But you can see that I've already set it up and connected it to my Google Drive, so I have use of it now. So I could back up stuff to there. The column in the middle is the list of what needs to happen. You'll see it shows up, and it will go arrows back and forth depending on what needs to be synced. If you're doing a restore, like your whole restoring of a file, then you would use this button up here to flip to make this your source, and then back on your computer, the target. Okay, I think that's pretty much the basics. As you can see, if I click on here, browse, it opens up the file manager, and I can go and find whatever I want to be backing up. Once I've done it, they'll start showing up in the drop-down box, so I can get to it a lot easier. Now, I want to show you how it actually worked. So here's that same opening screen that I showed you. And the first time you do it, it's blank. So what I did as an example to run is I chose to back up my APCUG folder on my computer. And I said I'm going to sync it to a folder called, well, to my computer, a folder called LinTower, which is what I call my tower, in a folder called backups on my backup drive. Now, I called mine the 2 TB because I have a 2 terabyte and I got a 1 terabyte. So it's going to go to the 2 TB. So now I have set what I want. So the next button is I'm going to hit this compare button and let it tell me what it's discovered. What it has discovered is that my folder for APCUG has all these files that are not showing up in the folder called LinTower. And the next screen shows that it goes and shows all of my folders and the files inside those folders, and said, nope, doesn't have any of that over on the other one. Down at the bottom, it tells me I've got 295 files that need to be synced up. And according to the list over here, you can see that all the green arrows are pointing to the right, which means we're going to copy and sync everything there. So everything's ready over on that side. So now I'm ready to hit the sync button. And the marvels of the screenshot or the presentation program, I can pretend I'm clicking sync and it's going to do it. And there we go. You get a graph that runs up there. I did these 294 files in like 0.4 of a second or so, or 4 seconds. So it's a fast, depending on how much you do at one time. But I got an error that says I completed it with an error. We'll come back to that in a second if I figured out what the error was. All right, so now that we're done, you can see now that everything says we're all equal. Everything on the left is now mirrored on the right. You can see up at the top, I'm doing a mirror. So it's just one-way copied of everything. And down at the bottom, it shows 294 of those files went, but there's one that failed. But first, if we go using the file manager, and how Orv said, the thing I like about Linux file managers is many of them allow you to have split panes, not 2 tabs, not 2 windows, split panes. You can see that on the left-hand side, that's my APCUG folder. And on the right side, that's my LinTower folder on the 2 terabyte hard drive, and they are equal. So even though FileSync told me they were, I can double check and see, yes, they are. Now, this just shows you, this is the Linux look of the FreeFileSync. There's the Windows look, and there's the Mac look. So it kind of tells you, well, they're all pretty much the same. There's not much of a design change, and they all work the same. All right, now let's go back. Oops, where's my error message? Did I drop that out there? Let me go back and see if it's. Yeah, I did. All right. So what I can explain to you is that if we go back to the error message, I didn't want to start from the first. The second thing is the log. And what it happened was that it showed me the file that it could not copy over. And at first I thought it because it was a template file, or it was an open document template, and I thought it couldn't. But what you set up FreeFileSync is not to copy temp files, not template files. What it turned out was that the file that I had was one that I created that I could reuse for some process. And instead of a month or something, I just put a question mark, question mark, question mark. So like each time I can pull that file up like a template, change that to whatever month I'm working on, and then save it because I had it set up. I changed the question marks back to like numbers, had no problem. So evidently in syncing, the computer said there's something wrong with this file that has all this dot or question mark, question mark, question mark, and it didn't. Now, I did do something wrong with my backup attempt, so I erased it and I'm going to do it again, is that I thought, being my first time, that when we go back, when we went to do all of this, that it was going to create the folder called APCUG. It took all of what was inside of APCUG and put it inside of LinTower. So my mistake was I should have had a folder already created for APCUG and then copied everything that's inside of APCUG into here. Now, what I've learned is that what you can do is you can create multiple different backup plans, just like Drew did with his. I could probably back up my home directory, but that's going to take a good big chunk of time because there's thousands and thousands of files on my computer. But what you might consider doing is, I only want to back up the ones that I'm going to be using the most, like my APCUG folder, my documents folder, my presentations folder. So I could create a different backup for each of those, or syncing for each of those. They would show up on this list on the left up here. But one special feature is I can go in and I can highlight all three of those at once, and it will do the syncing and backing up of all three of those at the same time, instead of having to do them one after the other. So I see value in what FreeFileSync lets you do there by creating separate ones, then clustering them. In an advanced program, you can also save these as batch files, which then you can program to run automatically in that real-time sync, which, work on at some other time. I can't tell you enough about how impressed I am with this program for the syncing. And what I can do with this is I can back up my APCUG folder to my external drive. Then I can take that drive, come to my laptop, and restore it back here and have all of those files now matching what's on my desktop. I don't have that right now. I can access those files through my pCloud, but this would be nice to be able to have all those files already there, so I don't have to keep going up to get them and back to get them. My last slide. FreeFileSync, it's free. So go give it a try. And as Drew said, you know, so is the program he demonstrated. So was the cloud service that he did so that you could try it. When it's free, give it a try. And if you like it, tell the guy you like what he's done by putting so much into a free program. So Judy, I think that's going to be it for that part.
Okay. I have a question in here, but when it's in open Q&A, that person can ask the question. But I have an extremely important piece of information here, which is truly all about what all of us do from the beginning of time, May 2020, on Wednesday workshops. It was invaluable to me to see how Mr. Kennedy handled the error in the demo backup, creating a new APCUG folder, etc. Very helpful. We have said from the beginning, these presentations are warts and all. None of us are professional presenters, or the majority of us aren't. We just do our thing. And if we make a mistake, we go back and we start over again or whatever. So you do not have to be a professional presenter to give a presentation at a Wednesday workshop. Is that not correct, Mr. Kennedy?
It is so correct. All you need to do is have some knowledge of something that we might be interested in learning, such as what I asked Drew. I said, Drew, would you share us that program? Last week, he shared us a different program. And that's all we need. We want people to be willing to share something that they know, use, blah, blah, blah. And it doesn't have to be perfect.
Okay, we are open for live Q&A. Please don't ask Orv any questions. If you have another question for Orv, do put it in the chat box, because he mentioned that somebody was walking around. And I'm assuming that's not his house that they're walking around. I'm assuming that it's one of the ham radio towers, and he wanted to find out what was going on.
So if you have questions and you want to share, the other thing is I'm going to throw out the topic like the Weather Channel does, the question. If you have a backup method, a backup system that you can share with us, we have a lot of people who are new to backing up, and this is backup month. So besides questions or comments about the presentations, if you have a system that you use that you'd like to share, somebody else might find that, oh, well, that sounds easy enough to use, or whatever.
Yes, if you are backing up, and we're going to keep doing this in every single March, because I am on a soapbox that says everybody needs to back up. And when I give a presentation about backing up, and mine is, why in the world do I need to back up? I say, who was backing up? And people raise their hands, and the rest of them go like this, or they're put their head over there, not realizing I could see what they're doing, possibly. So I need everybody to back up, because I know people who have lost precious photos of their little darlings, never to get them back again, except for those they sent to friends and relatives. They lost the first 6 years. And you don't want that kind of stuff to happen. So we're over to Donna, who has.
And as Donna did, if you have something you want to share and whatever, we've got, you know, multiple screens. And so we would never have seen Donna raise her hand because she doesn't have her camera on. So she hit the reaction button and hit the raise hand. So she went to the top of the list. So Donna.
Yes, when you mentioned that you didn't put the title in, let's say I wanted to transfer 2 different sections, APCUG and photos. Would I put both of those titles on the external hard drive, and then the sync would know which is which, where to put those files or not?
On the left-hand side in that small box, there will be a list, like a file list of the different backups I've created, because once I do a backup, I'm going to hit the save button. So it's going to save it for remembering. And so just like we can do with a regular file manager, you hold down your control key. I can click on 1, 2, or 3 different backups and then run those all 3. And it
Yes, so
knows
you
to
said-
go, yeah, but
Okay,
what I've saved said, take it to my external hard drive.
all
Or,
right.
yeah, or maybe I've created a different backup that says save it to the network. If I have a network storage like we've talked about.
It's not the question. The
Okay.
question has to deal with the fact that you had a number of things on your hard drive. When you said you transferred just APCUG, let's say I want to transfer APCUG and photos on my external drive. Do I write APCUG as one folder and photos as another, and will FileSync know the difference and where to put it? Or do I do one section at a time with a title?
The first time you have to go and through your file manager, say, I want to back up APCUG and set up a program to do that.
Thank you.
Then you
Okay,
go
got it.
and set up a second program to back up photos.
Oh, got
But
it.
then
Okay,
you could, yeah, and then you can run both of them in the future because it remembers all the settings.
perfect. Thank you. That clarified what I needed. Thank
Good.
you.
Does
Yeah.
she need to create the name of the folder like APCUG on her external hard drive?
Yes, unless she's already done a full backup of her whole home directory, then they would all be there. I just didn't do that because I knew that was going to take a long time.
Cool. Mary Ann, I don't see anybody putting the name of their backup program that they're using in the chat box. We really would like to know.
Oh, I was going to have them tell us about it.
No, I'm not asking that. I'm just asking simple.
Oh, simple question. Okay, Marianne, you're unmuted, so go
Okay.
ahead.
So far, all I've been doing is drag and drop. I don't have a program. So I have drag and drop. My concern is I do have folders that I really, really want to hold on to from photos. And so I do the photos by year. So is that a good way to do it? Or should I do like 2023, I might have 8 folders underneath there of different things in 2023 that have photos in them. I don't know how far to break it down before I sync it over.
That comes back to me to how you organize your filing system. Judy Tallur will tell you, I don't put anything in folders. I put everything in alphabetical chronological order. So for her, not you. So for some photography people, they know exactly what they do. So when they did it, so they put it into folders of years. I can't do that. All of my folders in photography has some kind of a descriptive name for what's in that folder. And, you know, you back up according to whatever is most important for you to save. And, you know, I think, you know, the backup, usually you do a full backup the first time, and then you worry about incremental. So the first backup is going to take a while, you know, whether you do it to the cloud, to iDrive, to pCloud, or whatever, you know, the first one's going to take a while. And then it's a matter of these incremental programs just say, oh, here's a changed one. We'll put it up there for you. So Mary, go ahead.
If I get this from the woman who went last, so the first time I do my photos and mirror them, right? The first time you do a mirror.
Mhm.
Okay, so it will put the name of the folder on the right side. I don't have to the first time.
What I've learned you have to do is your external drive has to have a folder called photos. And then
Okay.
when you select photos on your computer, everything inside of that folder gets put inside of the other folder.
Okay.
And that's
I
what
was
I did
thinking you
wrong.
had said the very first time it would put it over there for you, the name, and I was wanting to make sure on that.
Yeah, you need to set up your, you know, it would do it. If you do a home backup, it'll back up everything in your home folder. And then all those folders would be created. But because I did a particular folder, then it just took what was inside the folder and put it inside the one I was calling my desktop. And so that wouldn't work because they weren't inside the APCUG folder. They were just scattered in on the computer.
And they are not encrypted, is that correct, when you on this program?
They're on your computer. It's my external hard drive.
Yes, but when I take it and put it off onto an external terabyte drive, okay, they don't get encrypted by this program, do they?
No, this is just a backup program to your own hard drive.
But from my hard drive to an external hard drive, right? I mean, I'm
Right.
taking it from one place to another. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, these are yours. If you can encrypt it, like with Drew's program, you can encrypt it.
I don't
And-
want them encrypted.
Right, so it doesn't do it because it's just copying your files from your internal hard drive to another location, preferably your backup computer or your backup drive that you can carry with you and protect, take off site.
Okay.
It's
All right.
just
Thank you
like-
so much.
It's just like another C drive, only
Yeah.
it's your external D drive possibly.
Now, we have another person who does a great workshop on encrypting your files. So, you can encrypt them and then put them on an external hard drive. But this is a process of backing up your files, syncing them to an external drive for your backing up purpose.
Thank you.
And don't forget, Drew's here if you have questions about Drew. And if anybody else has good ideas for backing up procedures,
I'm
share
getting
it
a
with
lot of
us.
ones over here I've never heard of before, which is
Well, good.
which is the purpose of this. And I am an alphabet person, reading readiness left to right. And Bill Gates said 1,000 years ago that you need to think of your hard drive as a file cabinet. So in my tech ed classes for adults for 1,000 years, when I made that statement, I hit the 4-door file cabinet to my right, so they got the idea. So yes, everything is in alphabetical order. In my Golden Oak folder, my classes, curriculum for each single class that I taught is underneath that. And they're all in alphabetical order because that's how my brain goes. My pictures are by year. Otherwise, I'd have, too many folders unless they're super special. And then I will, use the name. I also deal with numbers before the name in my APCUG folders, the folders that I am opening all the time under APCUG. They have a 1 in front of them or a 0 to bring them up to the top. And if I don't need to scroll through 16,000 things to find something if it's something that I am clicking on all the time. So you have to think about these kinds of things when you're setting up how you organize your hard drive, and it's never too late to start. George, you're on.
Unmute.
I put a question in the chat for Drew. I don't know if it got asked.
You can ask it.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So you said duplicati does not make an image. So how do you verify the backup without being able to mount an image? Because what I do with Macrium Reflect, which is what I use, is I just mount the image as another drive, and then I explore it with the file manager. And that doesn't require disk space to be, I don't have to restore something to explore whether it got saved correctly.
Well, it's not doing an image backup of your data. It's backing up the files one by one and putting them into a zip file. So it's not doing the same kind of a backup as the one.
So I'm guessing that if you want to get just a few files, then without restoring the whole drive,
Yes.
or putting the whole drive in a different place temporarily, that it's better to divide it up into a bunch of smaller folders, like you know, my documents, my downloads, things like that.
Well, if you have Duplicati backing up your entire home folder, it will build a local database on your computer of all of the files and folders that are backed up. And then when you go in to do a restore, you basically just navigate in your file system what file and folder you want to restore and click on it.
Oh, okay. So you don't have to restore the whole thing that it backed up and zipped just one.
Oh, no, you can restore one file or one version of the
okay.
file.
Okay, that's fine. So you can test the backups success by restoring one file, as you
Sure.
did today, for instance. You did a folder.
Yes.
Yeah. And,
Okay,
and the feature that Drew showed was he had the option of putting it back in the original place or
Yeah.
somewhere else.
Yeah,
So,
I'd do it somewhere else, so I wouldn't
Yeah,
disturb
so-
my current situation. Yeah, okay. And yeah, I've enjoyed Macrium Reflect. It's worked really well. It used to be free. I think that it's only available now on purchase, but it is Windows based. You can back up a Linux partition, but you don't get all of the feature of exploring the image because you're running the program in Windows.
Apparently it's free till 12/31/23.
go
Okay.
grab it while you can.
Yeah, so we're Steve Parker is going to demo that at our workshop next week. And yes, George, that was the question that I asked the person who put it in there to please ask. So thank you for doing that. And John, for you, I checked the old hard drive here and that free tree program you were talking about. As far as I'm concerned, you've never showed that to us.
Okay, I've done that on my presentations for free software.
Okay, so you might want to add that to your list of things you might want to do. Kevin, you're
That's
on.
the Windows side.
Yes, I tend to be a details guy, and so I hope this is not an obnoxious question. The lady after Donna mentioned you were throwing around the term backup, and FreeFileSync, I guess by its name, isn't really a backup product. And when I started thinking about that some weeks ago, it was like there really is a difference between backups and syncing. And it's an important distinction to know that when you have a synchronized thing, it's a good thing to have if you're going to be going off site and you want to have access to all the stuff that's on your home devices. Then it's wonderful because you can get the exact stuff that you've got right at that moment of time if you've got a sync that's happening all the time. But a backup is really, in my mind at least, not according to Microsoft, who apparently just changed the definition of backup a few months ago to mean something totally different. And a backup is a snapshot in time of something at that point in time. And it is, in a sense, on the shelf, able to be accessed at some time in the future if you wish. Whereas synchronization is information being copied in real time from one place to another so that it's available in real time at some other location, for example, or from some other device. So it really is a different kettle of fish, as they say. And I'm going to stop there because I want to get on my soapbox and talk about Microsoft OneDrive changing the definition of the word backup, but I will do my best to hold my tongue.
Well, I'll comment. To me, you've got to put an adjective in front of it because I think a backup is meaning just a backup that you have a second copy.
Yes.
You're talking about image backup, which means it takes the whole picture of the computer. Oh, you're not talking about backing up data then.
No, I'm talking about what I would consider backup in the conventional sense of I want to back up an APCUG folder. I want to back up all the data in documents, pictures, and desktop. And so I have a copy made of that to some other device location entity. So I've copied everything in those folders to an external hard drive, to a place in the cloud, to some other computer. So it's a snapshot of my data at some moment in time that is somewhere else. It doesn't necessarily have to be including the Windows folder. It doesn't have to include the program files folder. It's just a copy of something out there.
Right, and that's what I consider as a backup.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
But
Yeah,
but it's a
it's
backing up, because I can take that external hard drive that I copy all my files to and set it aside,
yes.
or I can use it in a way of keeping it synced in the future. So I think the word backup is a very broad, difficult to define, because everybody has their own ideas of what they mean by backup. And it's data backup. It can be a system backup. It can be a full image backup. You know, in Linux, I use the time machine so that if I need to go back in time because the system has gotten wacko, I can easily do that. I keep my software backed up separately for all the programs I've added to Linux that didn't come with it. So once I reinstall Linux, I can just hit a button and say, put all my programs back on that I had, and then I have backup for my data.
And in every case you just said, every one of those backups is a snapshot in time of some set of data.
Right.
A synchronization is different, because a synchronization, in my view anyway, is in general a real-time syncing of making equal, so to speak, something that's on one place and something that's someplace else. So the difference in yours is your FreeFileSync. You have to initiate a synchronization process, and I don't know if it does it in real time. Where
yes,
something like OneDrive and Carbonite and some of those things, they are actively copying something you've changed after the initial setup, where everything is now the same on, we'll say, a computer, and we'll say in a cloud. Those things are the same. And now I make a change. I add a paragraph to a presentation. Well, as soon as I hit save, a copy of that is now made in that other device. To me, that's a synchronization. That's not a backup, because by definition, in my brain, by definition, a backup is that snapshot in time, and it stays that way, and it doesn't actually change. And if you want to do what they call an incremental backup, then that's an update to this backup, where it now takes a snapshot of what is now in time, and it takes a copy of those new files that have changed, and it puts makes an incremental, a set of files that represent the changes that have occurred, such that if you wanted to, you could restore everything to that point in time. So,
right. Yeah.
And
Well, but my backup, as soon as I unplug that external drive, it is what you're saying, because it's not going to change until I run it again.
Exactly.
So I'm using it more as a backup. And then in the future, sometime I'll say, oh, I need to do an update to my backup, plug it back in, run the mirror, it brings it up. But I'm unplugging, because my synchronization is my pCloud, because that's what it does, just like OneDrive does. So there's my synchronization. This one, I unplug it. It's now set in time until I plug it back in.
And my 2 cents worth is, my daughter moved to Denver, whole family. It was Comdex time. That's when APCUG had their conference. I went with her and the grandkid and the cat on the plane, and the people in Las Vegas said, how in the world could you do that? You have everything we need to help with the conference. If we have a question, what are we going to do? I said, no problem. I unplugged my external hard drive, put it in my purse, flew to Denver. First thing we set up was their computer. I plugged it in, and boom, it all was alive and well, and life went on. And that was before we were using the cloud. So this is really back in the day. Synchronization. Bill James uses it all the time. He will work on his phone and he will add something to a document. And when he's finished with it, it is immediately available on his Linux computer, his Mac computer, his iPad, and his Windows PC. That's synchronization. It appears exactly as you saved it on every single one of your devices that is using the synchronization program.
Yeah.
Kim Woodward, go for it.
Hi, how you doing?
Great.
Okay, I use something very simple, similar to FreeFileSync as a synchronization program. It's called Desynchronize, and it's part of a package or that is on portable apps. I use portable apps to do genealogy, okay, because it has a program on there called Gramps, which is it's a genealogy database. The way that I use desynchronize to do the synchronization is maybe a little different. I use an external hard drive, first of all, when I'm doing, I'm grabbing things from the internet and I'm stuffing it into file folders under one specific file folder. And the entire database that I have that's under Gramps is under the same exact file folder. So if I take that overall file folder and synchronize it to other drives, I've basically made a backup copy of what I have for genealogy. And I have a three-phase backup in that I'm doing things on one external hard drive, and I can, move that from one PC to another PC without any problem. But Saturday morning, I have another 4 terabyte drive sitting on my desk, and I plug it in, and I take a little, one of these things, USB drive, and I also plug it in, and I run through a sequence of synchronization that copies from the hard drive that I work with over to this external hard drive, and I copy it also onto this USB drive. And the reason for the USB drive is every once in a while, I will meet up with my granddaughter and I will give her my USB drive and she will give me back the USB drive she had prior to that, okay? So that I can take that back and I can continue doing updates on Saturday morning to that USB drive, and eventually I'll meet up with my granddaughter again and we'll swap drives. And what that does is that's my offsite backup. If something should happen to me, hey, at least my stuff about the family is resident. So that's kind of how I use that. But I also use it to do desynchronize to do backups to a different USB drive, and that's primarily for financial information. Okay, so it kind of depends upon how you want to do things. And I understand, the deal about making a backup copy of, your system and things like that, but I'm constantly blowing away. I use Raspberry Pis all over the place. So I constantly blow away a Raspberry Pi, and, I don't really worry too much about backing those up. On the other hand, I've got pictures that are on a Mac Mini, and I need to have that in multiple places, because I don't want to lose those. So what you're saying, Judy, is very, very true. But that's that's just a way that I use it.
Perfect.
And I'm glad you mentioned the offsite backup. If you possibly can, my external hard drive was offsite. It was in Denver, but we have earthquakes, we have fires, mostly fires now in California. So if there's any way you possibly can, when you make your backup, you give it to somebody that doesn't live where you live, that's going to get the same thing, like Kim does with his family member, and it's just a fail-safe. And then there's the 3-2-1 model of you have it on your hard drive, you have it on your external hard drive, and you have it in the cloud, so to speak, or you have it off-site someplace. So that's a good method to use. And we are going to close today's workshop with our friend from Australia again. Not
Yay, it's
too
Richard.
shabby.
Don't want to hear anybody say I didn't get up in time to watch this, because
Yes.
Richard doesn't go to bed or he has to set an alarm to get up in the middle of the
And-
night.
oh,
So
Yeah.
By the way, I want to thank you, everybody who participated by putting what they back up with. I'm assuming that every single person that does not have information in my chat box here does not back up. Or you never learned in preschool and kindergarten how to participate, one or the other. Choose which one works for you. Richard, you're on.
Just a comment about, or for Kevin, between synchronization. Remember, there are two parts of FreeFileSync. There's the FreeFileSync and there's also real-time sync. So there you've got the real-time sync, which John didn't talk about, but that really is the synchronization program. Whereas FreeFileSync, you can think of as a backup with incremental backups under your control.
yeah, but that's good.
So
I just
if you
didn't
do-
have
if you
time
don't-
to.
If you don't run FreeFileSync, then you're not changing the files on your storage. So it becomes effectively a backup. But if you're running real-time sync, on the other hand, well, as you make changes, those changes get reflected on that external storage.
Good point, Richard. Yeah, and that was a good feature I saw for that program. I just haven't had enough time to delve into that. And my biggest thing, along with Judy, is getting people to back up so that if your computer crashes or whatever, you have access to your files that you need. So whatever method, and even the simplest method of copy, paste, that was here from the beginning. We just trying to give you some programs that'll do it a lot easier.
And if I hadn't backed up, I've been backing up since the beginning of time. I have no idea whether Mr. Gates told me to do that, but whatever, I did pay attention to him back in the day, is that I would have had to cancel 2 Southwest Tech conferences in San Diego, because I've had 2 hard drives die, and they happened to be in the summer just before the conference. And I had all the information on my hard drive. And if I didn't have it backed up, we would have canceled, and we would have been out $1.5 tons of money that we needed to pay the hotel, can't return everybody's registration fees, cancel all the vendors coming in. So you can see why backing up is very important to me, because it does happen in real life. And when it happens to you, you just say, thank goodness that I'm doing that. Donna. And then we're out of here.
Yes, I'm here. I was curious on what program Bill James uses to sync, because I have Mac and Apple and Linux and Windows. Anyway, so I was curious what program he uses to sync that everything goes to all 3. Does he just make one folder that everything syncs in that changes? I'm
Mr.
curious
James,
about that.
Mr. James, you can walk us off, unmute yourself, and tell us what you do. Thank you so much for doing that. Thanks for the question, Don. Bill James, are you there?
No.
I think the answer would be for Bill is that he's a OneDrive user.
Yeah.
So you can connect OneDrive with Linux because you can do it through the web, because they don't have a good client yet. And the same thing for a Mac and for Windows. If you want a better cross-platform, it would be something like Google Drive, pCloud, which
He has stuff on Drive, he has stuff in Dropbox, but his main go-to is OneDrive, hands down. And then it just populates everywhere in the world, and it works really cool for him. And that's it, Mr. Kennedy. Walk
That's
us
it.
off.
All right. Thank everybody. Drew or Kevin, thank you. I always appreciate the comments that you share with us at all the workshops. And it does give you an idea that in technology, what one person thinks something means, another person it might be something else. And that's the hard time that we have trying to communicate with, especially technology.